Good morning and welcome to the second edition of Anarcho-Caffeinated. I'm trying again because I screwed up the intro yesterday by not putting my microphone in front of my stupid face. So this is already better. And if you didn't see it, which will be like everyone that follows me here on X, this is a new format I'm testing out here where I look at what's going on in the world. I give my perspective. It's very informal, not necessarily here to help you find out what's right or wrong, but just kind of how I look at things. And hopefully we can help each other parse through all the crazy misinformation out there. Grab your coffee with me, take a sip, bask in the warm, glowing, warming glow of Ancaf. I like to keep things short so you can get on with your day. I don't like to waste anyone's time. Uh, and if you're wondering, yes, I did copy this concept directly from Coffee with Scott Adams. He's got his simultaneous sip, and I got to come up with a good gimmick of my own, but I'm sure he won't mind me taking over. Uh, it's different enough not to infringe on any IP laws, not that I believe in them too much anyway. And speaking of that, this is just a fun thing. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Jack, the former Twitter CEO, tweeted this out. Yes, good old Jack Dorsey said, delete all IP law. And Elon Musk said, I agree. So, I don't know if they were watching Mark and I on If Buy Whiskey, which we talked about IP on Thursday. I guess we're super influential. I think it's a law that if something's on X, Elon Musk has to watch it. uh, no, I admit that letting go of IP is a hard pill to swallow. I don't think them two tweeting this is going to change anything anytime soon, but it's interesting, right? It's very interesting to think about. We talked about this on If by Whiskey. I talked about this on Drop the Mask with my guest Matthew Sands, episode 40, if you want to see that. We did a whole segment on it. There's some good stuff there, but I digress. Welcome to the show, everybody. Again, this is Anarcho Caffeinated. I call it Ancaf for short. It's clever, right? I got my morning coffee buzz going, and I'm just here to hang out. For those who didn't see the first one or couldn't hear because I had the mic 5 feet away from me, I talked about the phrase, the map is not the territory, that Adam Heyman shared with me in my interview with him. And of course, he didn't make it up, but he got me thinking about it. And in the context of the news, the goal, at least allegedly, of the news is to provide us with a map to understand what's going on in the world. And if you've been paying any attention to the news for the last several decades, you know that it's completely full of shit. But that doesn't mean it's entirely useless. If you can understand people's biases and motivations, and every once in a while the mask does slip and they reveal something important about the man behind the curtain, so you can still use what they say to get kind of an approximation of the truth, of the territory, of what's really going on. So it's not that they never tell the truth. Like Michael Malice says, the corporate press is often factual, but not truthful. They will report facts here and there, but leaving out the context completely changes how people perceive it. And you've got the classic example of the fine people hoax. Did Donald Trump call neo-Nazis very fine people? No, but it was presented that way, and people still believe it wholeheartedly, even though it's been debunked thoroughly. But on the subject of experts, that's what I talked about last time. That's what's been going around the Twitters these last few days because of the Douglas Murray and Dave Smith conversation on Joe Rogan's show. By now, we all know about his lame appeals to authority, I think. Go check out yesterday's show if you're not up to speed. But since then, I did see one take that is the best one I've seen from Murray's side. So this one is Vocal Distance. What he says. I followed this guy for a while. He very often has good takes and explanations of things, though. There was one not too long ago that really turned me off of him, and I can't even remember what it was, which is kind of funny, right? Like, I remember the feeling, but not even what the content was. But maybe there's something to be learned there. Anyway, here's what he said regarding Murray's experts. So he says what Douglas Murray was saying is that Daryl Cooper, Ian Carroll, etc., are happy to wield a degree of influence in public historical discourse that is typically reserved for experts, but refuse to be held to the intellectual standards that we hold experts to. If we go down to the comments, what Murray's trying to get people to understand is that if one wields a high degree of influence, then one must also take responsibility for that influence. This is accomplished by holding to the highest standards of scholarship and ensuring proper rigor and accuracy. So, okay, it goes on. He goes on basically saying the same thing. The point is not about the epistemology of or credentials. The point here is about the level of responsibility that attaches to one's level of influence. With a greater degree of influence comes a greater degree of moral responsibility to ensure you get the story right. So, okay, fair point. But this is why I said yesterday that maybe Dave should call himself an expert because he has done this rigor. He has tested these ideas against anyone who will accept the challenge. I think he was being falsely modest and saying, "Yeah, I'm not an expert. Maybe you shouldn't listen to me." But challenge, challenge the substance, man. So Dave Smith may not be an expert in that he hasn't done the research himself. He's relying secondhand on other sources. That doesn't mean he's wrong, because he's clearly spent a lot of time researching, thinking about this, and his recall of facts is amazing. And I'm leaving open the possibility that all these facts are cherry picked and Dave is wrong about something, but that's not really the point here. A lot of times, the experts, the actual first hand experts, can be maybe like eccentric genius types who know so much but lack the social ability to present it in the best way to us non geniuses. And I'm trying to develop my skill in that as well. But experts try their best to share their findings. But I've heard podcasts and interviews with some of the smartest people, and it's just painful to listen to them because they haven't figured out how to tell their stories in an engaging way. Again, I'm working on that too. You don't need to point it out to me that I'm not an expert at this either. I'm trying, but there is something to be careful of. Just because someone's better at articulating ideas does not mean that they are right. So, if Murray really is the expert because he's written about for years and he's been there physically and he's been in the archives, then he should have been able to just demolish Dave on the facts. Not say that you shouldn't even be here. Just if he's wrong about something, say it. And he did not do that. So I don't think Murray is dealing in good faith here. And the context of that is something that I saw in a video yesterday. So I got to share a piece of this clip of Murray, courtesy of Adam Media on X. He's talking to Ben Shapiro about the Israel issue, and he makes a weird comparison. So they say that there's 15 million Jewish people in the world, and that conceivably, if 15 million Christians are slaughtered or 15 million Muslims were slaughtered, of course that would be a tragedy, but he has a but. If 15 million Jews were gone, well, that's where we'll pick it up right here. Let me know if you guys can hear that. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. It's a weird thing. I'm feeling like maybe you guys couldn't hear that. I want to go double check. Let me make sure I share the screen with the audio. I'm working out the kinks here. We'll get it. We'll get it. I think you guys probably couldn't hear that. Um, Let me just go back a few seconds because this is good.
In my view, wouldn't survive either. Wouldn't survive either. Western civilization could not survive the destruction of the Jewish state because it would be, among much else, the cutting away of the whole tree that we're on and Western civilization would die. So I regard the existential threat against the Jewish people to not just be about the Jewish people. It matters deeply to me that it is about the Jewish people. But it also matters to me because it's about America. Could America survive if the Jewish people were no more on its watch, or everybody was forcibly deported from the Holy Land?
Okay, there you go. So yeah, it's weird to value the lives of one kind of people so greatly over another. And please, someone explain to me how, if Israel falls, we suddenly lose Western civilization. Really, explain. I'm open to it because I cannot see a scenario where America suddenly collapses and withers away because Israel is gone. I don't want that to happen. There are millions of innocent people caught up in all of this, but to say that the existence of a Jewish ethno state in the Middle East is holding the world together is just bizarre. And I've still yet to hear any argument about why Israel is such a great ally to us. It seems to me that they're quite often taking advantage of generosity. And they use their influence to make sure that continues, to make sure they keep getting aid. I'm not saying it's right that they're constantly attacked, just that I do not personally benefit from the US Israel relationship, and almost no one here does. They take quite a bit from our pockets, and that's really the extent of my feeling about it. Yeah, so final thing on the Murray Smith debate, just taking a bird's eye view of the thing, was Michael Malice. He did a live stream talking about it, and he shared this statement. It really sums up everyone's reactions to the whole thing. He said, "People are far more interested in what they heard than what you said." It's really it. Most of the time, that's what it comes down to. People hear what they want to hear, and there's little you can do to convince them otherwise. I've been trying really hard to see Murray's side of this, to see the people that are saying Murray won that debate. I've been really trying to figure out what they're talking about, and I think it just comes down to either credentialism, appeals to authority, or that he has a fancy British accent and he talks with gravitas. So I don't know what else there is. Um, so one more thing, changing subject. I wanted to talk about this. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on it too. So add it to the comments. I'll check it out. But this is Bill Maher, and apparently he went out and hung with Donald Trump, and he talked about it on his show on Friday.
At one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine.
All right. So yeah, very interesting, right? I did anyone have that on their 2025 bingo card? Bill Maher hanging out with Trump and publicly softening his stance on the president? I didn't. So I'm surprised that he went through with this and talked about it this way. Of course, makes me a little suspicious. What's the hidden message? What's the plan going on in the deep state? Are they letting this out that, hey, Trump's not such a bad guy? And why would they do that? Because it does seem like he's continuing the regime agenda at this point. Did he make a deal where he gets a lighter treatment from media in exchange for continuing wars and inflation? I don't know. I realize that sounds a little crazy. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat or anything. I just know that bad people are in charge, and if the media narrative around Trump starts to shift from pure hatred to a soft disagreement, that's something to pay attention to. So one of his panelists on the show later took issue with this, as I'm sure Bill knew they would. I'll just play a short piece of this.
I'm not questioning your motivation. I'm questioning Trump's, okay? And if we can say that you went there in good faith, but maybe, just maybe, he wasn't there in good faith. I mean, you sold him on the Iran deal and he took it in. I mean, give me a break, okay? So the idea here is that your motivation is sound, but what's the impact? And I think a lot of people out there, fans of yours, people who love you, people who are fans of you, like me, I've been fans of you.
You don't have to patronize me, dude.
Okay.
I don't know you. I never met you.
I'm just saying that this comes from
not
a place
everybody
of
has to
love.
like it.
All I'm
That's
saying
what we
is-
said. There are people who didn't want it to happen at all. You sound like one of them. It's
No,
okay.
no.
But did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Like, what is the alternative to not talking? Just sit at your lunch table and don't talk to anybody.
I talked to him. I've interviewed Trump. Here's an interview.
That's not it. That's just not an interview. This was not an interview.
All right. Yeah, look, I've talked about this before, I think with Mark on our show. If Democrats just talked to Trump and treated him like they liked him, they could have had whatever they want. Like, he seems to be very eager to make deals with people, to give in to their demands. He wants the credit, he wants respect. So the whole treat him like he's Hitler shtick was really a bad play. And what he got into talking about was how that's divided people, made people hate each other, because some people really believe that. And so Maher softening his stance is interesting. Maybe it'll have an effect on people as a whole. They can have some permission, a little bit, to say, okay, maybe he's not completely Hitler. He's just 75%. Man. So, yeah, Democrats could have had anything they want while appeasing Republicans because they have their guy in office, and look, his supporters seem to defend anything he does. It doesn't matter whether it's conservatively principled or not. It could have been, I guess it would have been just like any other Republican president if they just acted normal, just be cool. And yeah, I don't think that's far off. But as much as I disagree with and often dislike Donald Trump, he's never been really uniquely bad. He's bad, but he's bad in most of the same ways that every other politician is bad. He's got a huge ego, he's narcissistic, he's bombastic, he's not smart about economics, to say the least. But yeah, he's never been this evil dictator that the media paints him to be. Okay, so one more thing. Steve Bannon was also there with Bill Maher. He talks about Trump running for a third term. Are you guys freaking out about this? I wouldn't, but let's see.
I'll get you to sign it backstage and underline.
I
Look,
will.
President Trump didn't bring up running for a third term. Myself and others brought up running for a third term. President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
Okay, but the thing I just read in there, it seemed like there was no wriggle room there. It seemed like it was just, 8 or 10 words that said only 2 times.
We have a team of people that are
team.
working. A team.
How can a team do something about that? What? I don't care if the team is 12 trillion people. The words are still the words.
Bill, every day in federal courts, right now in federal courts, there's 120 lawsuits on what President Trump's doing for his Article 2 rights.
I just want to pause there. So, what they were just talking about, Maher had read the part in the Constitution where it says presidents will not be allowed to be elected for more than 2 terms. Now, it does say elected, so if you're a lawyer, if you're thinking like a lawyer, you could easily find a way around that. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to happen.
On the unified
keep
executive
going.
theory. But he's chief executive, he's commander in chief, and he's chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer. There's 100, and they're running to court every day to sue President Trump, all because the interpretation of this. The interpretation of this is open for interpretation.
Yeah, a lot of people like to think that the Constitution, the law, is just black and white. It says what it says. We follow the law. But that's never been the case. right? It's always open to interpretation. That's why lawyers exist, because it's not so black and white. They have to go argue the case. This is against the law because of that, and this and that. And you can find contradictions, opposing laws all over the place. And you can wiggle your way out of basically anything. The Second Amendment's a great example. Shall not be infringed, but we have all kinds of infringements. People will find a way around it. So, is it possible that Trump will be running for a third term? Maybe. But to me, this is just Bannon trying to get some attention from Daddy Trump and from the world, I guess. Remember, he was pretty quickly out of the inner circle during Trump's first term. It seems to me like he's just trying to get back in, trying to get some attention and some love. So I wouldn't take much stock in this. If it happens, or if it even gets close, I'll eat my hat. Well, not literally, but maybe I'll do a show without a hat. How about that? Anyway, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. I really appreciate your time, sticking with me here. Let me just check the chat, see if we got any comments. Nothing. All right. Oh, Mark's here. Yeah, follow me at Drop the Mask Pod. If you're watching this on X, you already know that. Find my locals channel, dropthemaskpod.locals.com. Some bonuses in there, some good stuff. I think with that, we will wrap it up. Have a good day, everybody.
Come, family. Sit in the snow with Daddy and let us all bask in television's warm, glowing, warming glow.
Everything is going to be fine.